Hello everyone, it's Aidan from Push Square and we're here. We've finally done it. This is your finale review, episode 9 for HBO's The Last of Us. It's been a long and winding road of varying degrees of quality, but now that we're at the finish line, how did this last episode do? Well, these are my spoiler thoughts, and if you're looking for something less spoilery, you haven't watched it yet, you can check out my written review, which I'll link below. So, this episode, I had a lot of concerns prior to the episode when I saw the runtime, about 43 minutes I believe. A lot of stuff to cover here within that time frame. How did it do? You know, the thing with this episode is very weird, that it isn't this episode itself that's bad, it's more that we're missing components to the foundation that made the payoff in this episode feel a little shallow. I've kind of discussed it a bit along the way. I enjoyed some parts of it with the streamlining. I didn't like some bits as much, like when we got to Kansas City, I felt like it really lacked in comparison to the game version. I didn't like what they'd done with David last week because I felt like the gameplay segments that they were cutting out were really crucial character building moments. And I think that this is really the result of this big streamlined experience. It really showcased to me how important and how much work the gameplay of the original game was doing. This is gameplay and character work that made this series, that made us fall in love with it in the first place. And I actually really like that this is the realization I've come to, because it kind of goes in the face of the naysayers of The Last of Us when it first came out, that it was too much of a movie, less like a game, there was too many cinematics, not enough gameplay. But this showcases how important that gameplay was. And that, for me, when I talk about what I love about The Last of Us, it isn't the action scenes, it isn't the big bombastic moments, it isn't even sometimes the more dramatic character moments, it's the downtime, it's the quiet moments. It's like the university, for example, one of my favourite moments or scenes in the game, because you're just going around and it's working on different levels, different planes, because you are getting closer to Ellie and you can sense that, and you're enjoying that Joel's opening up to her a little bit and Ellie's recognising that and maybe pushing a little too far. Those moments when we're seeing these two characters really come alive with each other, but then you're also lacing that with like the post-apocalyptic journey narrative in there, because you're not sure whether the Fireflies are there or not. It was these small moments where the game's really taken its time and letting you just be and exist in its world that made it one of my favourite games of all time. And that's the reason that I left this episode just sort of feeling a bit unfazed by it all. I didn't have any strong emotional reaction. I was just kind of watching it. And that's despite the fact that after Joel and Ellie are taken in by the Fireflies, this is a near shot-for-shot recreation. We're getting almost the exact same stuff when it comes to Joel trying to see her, being told she can't, being escorted out, and he goes on the killing rampage. And I was really glad to see that the body count was there, that it was violent and they didn't turn it down, because I was a little worried that maybe there would only be like 5 or 6 Fireflies, but Joel is like going to town and tearing through these people. And I liked the way that Pedro Pascal played it off, because it was very, like, he was very calm. It wasn't desperate, it was just he knew what he had to do, he took his time, and that's how he got through them all. I really liked that interpretation, but as I said, it just didn't have the same weight. I remember playing the game and thinking, damn, like, we need to get to Ellie right now. These people are not going to stop me, and I'm going to like brutally murder all of them. You were like so on board at that point with this. I didn't feel that necessarily, despite the fact that I liked what I was seeing. And that's the thing I think is a shame with all of this, because it looks the part, it plays the part in some areas. The actors are incredible. I think they've embodied the roles so well. And even the music and the aesthetic, it all looks great and it feels like The Last of Us, but it's lacking that emotional punch. And something I really wanted to bring up was the change that they had. There's a discussion that Joel and Ellie have where he mentions the fact that the person that missed and left him with a bullet graze in his head was actually himself, and he had tried to kill himself years ago. And while I kind of got where they were going with it, I felt like it was very TV and movie. Oh, we'll plant a little seed of something at the beginning of the series and then it'll pay off at the end in some traumatic reveal. I didn't like it to be honest. I felt like it took away some of the ambiguity of Joel's character, because we all know that is what he probably did try to kill himself in the early days. At the very end, when we have the speech in the game and he says, you have to keep finding something to fight for. I struggled for a long time with surviving. You know, all of these wee things are sort of indicating that that's what happened. I'd go a little further than saying indicating. It's borderline confirmation, but having him really spell that out, to me, just, I didn't like it. And it also took an element away from the ending, with him having more of that speech and like what saved him. I felt like you could have taken that, and even if you put it into the final confrontation with the big lie between him and Ellie, I think it would have worked a little better, but having it is its own thing. And just to quickly touch on Anna, Ashley Williams playing Ellie's mum, I feel very like, again, to talk about that ambiguity, I didn't expect them to give us like a bit of an explanation as to why Ellie has immunity. There was something in The Last of Us where it almost didn't matter how she got it. It just was the case, and I liked that. But then, I don't know, there was something there that it sort of like ruined the mystery. And I don't know if that's something I'm just myself, like that's how I'm feeling. I don't know how you would feel about that. But I did like seeing Ashley Johnson. I thought it was a nice way to have her in, like giving birth to Ellie, as she did metaphorically with the game. But yeah, ultimately across the entire series, I have to say I've been a bit let down. It started out so strong, was very middling in the middle, and then just dipped at the end. Not so much in terms of what we were seeing, but what they were cutting out and the emotional impact being lessened because of that, because we didn't get enough time with the characters. It felt very abbreviated and very like highlight reels, which I get. And I think that's the danger with that, but it really showcases the power of gameplay and how that as a medium, like video games as a whole, can tell stories in a very different way. And that's despite the fact that The Last of Us TV show really isn't that much shorter than the game, maybe like 3 or so hours. But that time, the difference it made, in the game at least, yeah, I don't think it had the same punch. And for me, the way that I look at it is like, it was a good and serviceable show, probably one of the better video game adaptations out there. And I think a lot of people, if you were watching this for the first time, would have really enjoyed it. But I don't think you would be thinking, yeah, 10 out of 10. Like, I see why this is regarded as one of the best stories in video games of all time. I don't think that brought that across enough in the show. It wasn't there. Of course, this is the final one. We're done. I think I'm going to have another video maybe analysing the show as a whole and what it done right, what it done wrong. So stick around for that. Subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss out whenever it does come out. But yeah, this is it. It's been a fun journey, and of course, like, if you have someone else that's watching the show, then why not refer them to these episode reviews? I've been sitting here doing this every single week, so hopefully you have enjoyed this. I know I have. As someone that's very into film and television, it's been nice to, almost like a change of pace, having this to talk about over games. And I think this will be happening maybe in the future too, with the likes of God of War and Gran Turismo, a lot of PlayStation exclusives, making that jump into television and movies. So yes, thank you everyone that's been watching across this series. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.